it kind of helped them advance. I mean, do you think this was a conspiracy?
Gotta go with Jacob Butter. Gotta go lefty.
No, we're talking about the players. That's tournament champion to the podcast.
There he is, right there.
Oh, he doesn't even know how to watch. Go to youtube.com and search Down Lane Podcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Down Lane Podcast. We are streaming live from the lab at Town and Country Lanes. I'm your host, Kyle Haines, and with me is the assistant to the host, Anthony Scaccia.
Wow, what an applause. It's great to be back for the guest again. It just seems like I keep getting the call.
I don't know, however many episodes, 50 straight weeks. I don't know, however many it's been.
I think I missed a week. But
You're
man,
a jerk.
do I look good with this lighting?
Yes, we got some new lighting going on here to make us look super duper handsome,
Yeah.
which is never going to happen. But
I mean, you even brought the makeup in today. You used some mascara.
well, we've got a super big guest, a real guest, not just you, but a real guest that we had to bring in all of the pulled all the stops out. We had to do everything right. So
Upset you don't think I'm a real guest.
well, somebody that's worth their salt. But in a few minutes, we're going to be bringing on the PBA Tour Commissioner, Tom Clark. He is gracing us with his presence in just a few minutes. And don't forget, folks, you can comment to us during the show. We'll take some of your questions. We are going to be peppering him with a bunch of questions. We'll chat with you guys live on air. Don't forget, you can always like, subscribe, click the bell to get alerts from the channel. Check out the links down below, and you can check out the Etsy shop, all that good stuff. Before we get into it, Anthony, how was your week this week?
I look forward to this question every week. Well, you know, it's Thursday. That was a pretty good day. Got some small stuff done, cleaned up the lane machine a little bit, did some housekeeping, drilled a few balls, plugged a few of them. You know, is that not high enough?
Just can't hear anything you're saying, so just...
Austin, can you hear me? Whoa.
Oh, that's so much better.
I don't like that. It's too loud. We did a few things. I'll start with clean the lane machine, redid some paperwork, plugged some bowling balls. That was kind of about it today. And then we bowled last night, bowled Tuesday, bowled Monday. I mean, you know.
Yeah, Anthony's mopping up the Sport Shot League. I was chasing him down and then made
you were beating me.
Oh, I was?
Yeah.
Was I leading after two?
Yeah. I was plus like 48 or something. You were like plus 60.
Yeah. And then I completely made the wrong adjustment, switched balls, and almost went backward. Well, I did go backwards, but I almost went under. Shot 630, I think.
No,
620.
Yeah. It seemed like your reaction got a little weird. I changed balls to something to open up the lane a little more. We were on long. So everybody who's saying, "Oh, you keep winning, Anthony." Well, I won on short, I won on medium, and I won on long. So
yeah.
I am throwing it pretty good right now. I think the game is coming along, and hopefully we can
If
continue.
it could only translate in some real competition.
Dude, I was thinking that last night. I was like, man, I haven't won anything, but I'm doing really good. I mean, what the heck?
In practice.
Yeah, it's practice.
Switch the lights on and let's get something going.
I mean,
I got to say that about myself, too. You know?
I don't think I'm doing that bad in tournaments.
No, you're doing all right. Anyway, so, that was my problem last night. I shot 250 the second game, and then the third game, I did the same thing. I moved left to try to open up, and I switched balls, switched to a symmetric pearl, high road pearl. So, but it just wasn't ready, I don't think, because we're only bowling a few people on each lane.
Yeah,
and
but it was all forward loads too.
Yeah.
So, without the reverse, it's kind of actually like legitimate to PBA where their machine oils forward. It doesn't really do reverse from what I'm told. So it was more of like a PBA shot where I did see a little more transition than normal. But I did bring a ball this week that kind of gave me a little bit more room to open the lane up, and whoa.
Yeah.
I almost shot 300.
Yeah, it's 270 last game, right?
279, front 9, stone 8. But it was a bad shot. I deserved the 8, so I'm not mad.
Throw 9 and get 9, you know?
Hey, it is what it is.
All right, well, let us bring in our guest, because it is that time. Because I don't want to talk about us anymore.
I mean, I don't like to talk to you either, so I'm just forced to every week. You just show up, keep showing up.
I just keep walking in with all my junk and just plop it in the pro shop. You're trying to sell bowling balls, drill stuff out.
I was working out a ball 5 minutes before this. The guy's like, "Yeah, what are you guys doing?
Why are there cameras in here?"
Yeah, what the heck? Are you gonna video me?
All right. So Tom Clark has been the commissioner of the PBA since 2011. Since then, I think we can all agree the PBA has been moving in a drastically better direction. Not that we need to stroke Tom's ego in any way, but we have seen more prize money, more exciting action. Probably the best TV deal since the PBA was on ABC. When I was a kid or earlier. So let's welcome him in, Tom Clark, PBA Tour Commissioner. What's going on, Tom? How are you?
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. How should we address you officially? Is it Mr. Commissioner, Tom, Clark? How do we do this?
I think Tom works. Yeah.
All right, Tom works. Okay.
I was gonna refer to Anthony. Do you have a nickname when you're bowling? Because I'd go with the Butcher. You look like a butcher right now.
I like that.
Got my.
We call him man-child.
I've got there's some stories, right? So there's man-child. I kind of coined myself the big dog, so some people call me big dog. Today I'm running around with my apron to keep my clothes clean because my fiance keeps saying, "Why do you keep ruining your clothes when you do all this pro shop work and machines and stuff?" So I was like, I'm gonna wear an apron all day. So now I just wear it. It's like my natural clothes now.
I would say though, from now on, you should just wear that to bowling, and then we could actually call him the Butcher. That would be pretty.
The Butcher. I like it.
I like that. That's kind of cool because I'm axing the pins down or I'm cutting them down. Right? I just have to figure out how to tie it so it's not so tight. So I think we'll give it a go tonight.
Yeah, you got to litter it with or splatter it with blood or red dye from the ball plug.
If I see blood, I'm passing out. So we'll just
that is
die.
true. So we're gonna get into a lot of deep dive questions if that's cool before we get into some PBA stuff. So for a lot of people that don't know, let's get into some history. Where did you grow up?
In your neck of the woods, Syracuse, New York, upstate central New York. You guys are upstate New York. I love it there still. My parents still live there in Syracuse, and I bowled at a place called Fairmount Bowling Center. That was my bowling center as a kid. It's closed now. And Syracuse Bowling Center was my favorite center. I think that's a like a car dealership now. It was a great bowling community in Syracuse, and guys that people know now like Sam Ventura and Richie Spazzato, and they were like the few years ahead of me, and guys that I looked up to locally. And my dad was a really good bowler, is still a good bowler, and he bowled. So I was into bowling just my whole life as a kid, and in Syracuse.
Sammy V, that's we know Sam.
Sammy
V.
Sure.
Yeah, everybody knows him, right? I mean,
he's
always like the life of the party. You see him, hey, what's going on? How you doing? I'm like, hey, what's up? How you doing? So he's a good guy. I do like him. Good guy. Syracuse,
home of the giant snowplow out by the Thruway, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that right? They got and they have like So if you're driving down the Thruway and you get to Syracuse, they have this big giant snowplow out by the Thruway, and they like post their total like giant snowfall of the year or biggest snowfall in New York State or something. I don't know if that's still what they do, but it's nasty winters out there. They get all of that.
We like to think it keeps the bad people out. So I don't have a problem with it. I've moved around a lot, since then. I lived in Virginia for a while. I lived in North Carolina for a while, and now I live in Milwaukee. So I'm back into a cold weather, and I think I kind of prefer it actually, the 4 seasons, and I can get through winters okay. And it's bowling weather, everything's fine in a bowling center. So
there's no rain delay.
That's right.
Or cancellations.
There's sometimes
no rain delay.
Although I will tell you, it does seem like a lot more snow cancellations on the weakest of snowfalls. You know what I mean? It'll be like 4 inches, be like, oh, we're canceling league tonight. It's like cars have gotten better. Everyone's got all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and now everybody's canceling on 4 inches of snow. It's just kind of silly to me, but nothing.
No. Austin was signaling to me. I thought I was doing something wrong with my technical stuff. Turns out I wasn't.
So you went to high school. Did you bowl in high school and everything out there?
Yeah, we didn't have high school bowling then.
Really?
When I went to school. But I was the high school bowling was essentially our junior traveling league. you know, and the junior traveling league in Syracuse was great. And we'd go around all the different bowling centers in the area, like Holiday Bowl, which hosted a lot of PBA events through the years. And I bowled with and against a lot of good players. You guys know Bob Euchre from Syracuse. He was in our junior traveling league. He's won an eagle or two, and he was a great player. His daughter now, Haley Euchre, is a great lefty and bowls in college. But so we bowled with a lot of good. I bowled with a lot of good players, you know, coming through, and really wanted to bowl in college. And I was also always just interested in all sports, and really loved sports journalism and the media. And so I wanted to go somewhere, and I worked even in high school. I worked at the Syracuse Herald Journal, the Syracuse Post-Standard newspaper, which is a major newspaper, and I would just do anything I could working there. And so I wanted to get into journalism and sports journalism specifically, and also bowl in college. So I went to Buffalo State College. I put a search in, and that's one that came up. And Buffalo State had won a national championship in college bowling, and there were a lot of great bowlers there that I knew were going there. Chuck Husted and Charlie DeZolt and Gary Faulkner, who's now on the PBA 50 tour. And so, you know,
he's doing pretty darn good right now too, right?
Yeah, he's great. He's great. And Erie Community College was right there too. And there's a ton of great players at Erie at the time. Mike Newman was there when I was there, and then Brad Angelo and a bunch of great players. And so that Buffalo was another bowling hotbed, you know, at the time, and still is strong. You know,
Yeah.
Got Jack Jurek there, and Tom Baker had been there. And so, you know, it kind of went from one hotbed in Syracuse to Buffalo, and got to bowl a lot in school.
Yeah, when I was bowling in for Hudson Valley, it would always be bowling Erie and the junior college stuff, and they were always tough, still tough. You know, they are definitely a good squad.
Yeah. The Kerm Helmer Cup, which is what the winner of the national championship gets now in college bowling. That Kerm was the coach at Erie Community College. He built that program, and you know, obviously I knew him, you know, when he was right at the height of his powers, and he was a great administrator and the type of guy that took college bowling to another level. And so it was great to be able to know him and now see the trophy named after him.
Yeah. So is you said your parents are good bowlers, or your dad is a good bowler?
My dad, yeah, my father, yeah, he's still a 200 plus average bowler at age 77, you know, and with 300 games, and he used to make TV. They used to have a show called Syracuse Bowls in Syracuse, New York, every week. Like Albany has a show too, right? They had one. It was a good show.
Yeah.
Yep. And Syracuse had a great show. We had special lanes built at the NBC affiliate in Syracuse, and so you made the show and you went and bowled on these 2 lanes at the TV station, and it was really cool. My dad made that a bunch of times, and so he's still a good player. He made the cut and got through a few rounds at the Syracuse Masters just a couple of years ago in the 70s.
That's awesome.
Good for him.
So was he your coach growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I think he basically said bowl. You know, I mean, he didn't really try to make me do anything. You know, it's kind of like, you know, my coaches or the people that I emulated were pro bowlers. You know, it was Mark Roth. You know, at the time in the 70s when I was growing up, it was Mark Roth and Marshall Holman, and so you wanted to be like those guys, you know, because they were really exciting, and they really were taking bowling to another level in terms of the speed and revolutions and power that they were putting on the ball. So you wanted to be like them, and most people's dads weren't bowling like that. they were the two-handers of the day. You know, they were like blowing people's minds. You watch the old shows and listen to Bo Burton, and he talks about how this power cranker game, you know, is this really good for bowling? Is this, you know, and almost questioning it, and it revolutionized the game and got a lot of people like me involved in the game.
You look at it now, and it's like
everybody
throwing,
straight ball. Yeah, they look like they're throwing it straight down the middle. You know, it's
definitely
amazing.
game, right? Yeah, and then now you've got the two-hander, so it's kind of like things are always evolving and everything. What do you think about the two-hander? You're a lover, you're a hater, you're more
Oh,
traditionalist.
yeah. Let's see if he takes a position on this
I
one.
want to know.
Well, I mean, it's
Yeah.
really I think it's the debate and the issue of my era at the PBA. I mean, so I started in 2008 at the PBA, and I kind of worked to get Belmo to join the PBA. I worked pretty hard on that work because I identified him as a extreme talent, and watching him bowl in international competition and at the Masters a couple times, and had a lot of conversations with him and invited him to take part in PBA because it was so unusual and arresting. And as a journalist or as a media person, I'm always kind of looking for that interesting story, and I knew that that the mainstream media would find it interesting that there's someone bowling like this and that at the highest level, because it was unheard of. And so whenever there's something new, that's a news story. And so, and when there is clearly as talented as he was, it was like, he needs to be on the PBA Tour, and I'm joining the PBA Tour and working there. So I need to make sure the best players in the world are on the PBA Tour. And that was one of my first initiatives, is to get more international players because it was growing internationally. So, but with the advent of Belmo and Oscu, and now it's just taken off.
Yeah,
it's become the era of, I was just with, this young girl, Bella Love Castillo on Instagram. She's got 100,000 followers on Instagram.
Wow.
13-year-old girl.
I was just gonna say she's 12 or something. Yeah,
she's 13, and we invited her to our celebrity event that we taped last night, and got to know her and her family a little bit, and it's awesome to watch, and so this is like the two-hand revolution, two-hand era. My son is a competitive bowler and bowls at Whitewater in college. He's a sophomore. They won the national championship last year. He's a two-hand bowler. So I'm definitely on the side of it, certainly as a viable option. But I always try to tell people it's not like it's the only way you have to bowl. I mean, if you look at the greatest players in the world right now, and you have to list Chris Prather and EJ Tackett and, you name Dom Barrett and just any number of one-handed players. So it's not like you have to bowl two-handed. And I think it's very difficult, actually, especially if you didn't grow up with it. So, but it's a great topic. I've enjoyed all the debates all these years. It's kept it's interesting.
Now, Kyle.
I know.
Oh,
Well, you guys against it? You can tell
Kyle,
me.
Whoa.
I'm
trying to get his youngest son to bowl two-handed because my nephew,
my youngest son.
His youngest son, or his oldest son, is very like Kyle, by the book,
tradition.
Yeah, it's like perfect. And then he's got his youngest one, and
he's the rebel,
the wild child.
Yeah.
I'm like, buddy, listen, you get up there. He's 3, right?
He's 4.
And I'm like, I'm like, grab the ball, get up there, just throw it. It's called the running gun. Just get up there, 2 hands, and running gun it. And he's like, oh, okay, I like that. I'm gonna do that. And so now Kyle, he's like, he's not gonna bowl two-hand. I'm like, yes, he is. Let this one go. All right, let him go. So,
but I didn't even, for Zach, my oldest son, I didn't even tell him he couldn't bowl two-handed. He's like, I'm not bowling two-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just like,
sure.
I think it's because he sees, his parents are one-handed. It's just how we grew up. The two-handed wasn't a thing. But yeah, he's very 1, 2, 3 slide. He's so old school. It's funny. Watch. I'm sure he'll start cranking it.
You just have to be the best you can be. A friend of mine was a great pro bowler, Steve Wunderlich. I worked with him when I was at the USBC, and he always said that if there was a young player, he would always just encourage them to hook it as much as they can and get as many revs as they can as they grow up, because it's easier to refine that than to grow up more with a more standard release and then try to add revolutions to it. And that was kind of his thought, and I thought that made a lot of sense. I think that's
couldn't agree more. That's the trouble I have.
It really just comes down, if you really want to be great at something, you have to love it enough to practice enough. And that's the key, putting in the work. So if a style or hooking the ball makes you love it more, then do it.
Do it.
I mean, then because then you'll just bowl more. If you love it enough, bowling any other way that you want, do that. It's because it's really the work is more important. But I think you kind of said it, a more refined game that one son has, and maybe a wild game the other one has. I think that the great two-handers now, like Belmo, even he was more wild when he was younger. He's refined his game to be so, sound technically. It's almost like he has perfect fundamentals, yet he's throwing it two hands and can do different things to the ball. So it's a combination where you have a real success.
It's so clean too at the bottom. It's different than a lot of two-handers. It's just so clean.
It's not even fair.
He posts every single shot, and it's like he didn't used to do that. I mean, he's been working on his game. He adds to his game. There was a long time he really struggled on short patterns, playing out, things like that, and he's learned how to conquer that as well. So
if you don't see him in the finals on a TV show, you're like,
something's awry.
Did he bowl this week? Not even what he bowled. Did he bowl this week? He's just so good.
So as I mentioned in the intro, a lot of us remember what it was like before your time at the PBA, which was just not great. Things were just very weak. They were
boring?
Like, what's that?
Boring?
That's not even just boring. I mean, for a lot of people, bowling can be hard to watch when they don't understand the game. But just money was way down. TV time was almost nothing. And it seemed like, and there was like fewer and fewer stops too, I feel like. So can you tell us what it was like when you got there, even before you were commissioner, and what was the feeling like there? And then how did things start to progress to change?
Well, there's always been a lot of ups and downs, and before I was there was some great ups because the new ownership of the PBA came in 2000, the Microsoft guys, and it was really more the late 90s where it was at a real low point. And then when they came in about 2000, they invested a lot of money. They got a regular TV deal with ESPN. They improved the prize funds. They created the exempt tour. I think they did a lot of great things. They weren't able to turn that into the kind of profit, that they needed to sustain their investment. But it was strong, so you just go through different ebbs and flows. And so when I got there, it was more of a challenge of how do we get back to a network television presence, a better TV deal, and be able to attract the best players in the world, to lift the competition, and also to attract outside sponsors and the types of people that can make a pro sport work and attract fans. So we just kept working really towards the point when we could get to a negotiation period to go to a new network or stay with ESPN. And that's where everything came to a head. And we ended up with Fox and back on broadcast network television and more shows and more re-air shows and a little bit more money to be able to use for prize money and grow the fan base and improve the fans' understanding of the game by utilizing things like Strike Track that you see on Fox now. I mean, that was something we always wanted to do and finally could make it happen with Fox's investment. And so that was really the big win, I think, in turning the tide. But then, then you hit COVID and you hit, and then we were also, then the ownership changed as well, because those owners, they invested a lot. They're in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's where they belong, and for what they did to save bowling. But they were also they were about transitioning out. So the goal was, let's find the perfect new owner of the PBA, and we found Bolero, and that's who we're with now. And Bolero has such a great interest in the success of bowling because of their footprint with 300 bowling centers around the country and just wanting to get more people aware of and bowling. So there's been a lot of steps, and it hasn't all been easy, but I feel like you're right. We're on the right trajectory right now.
And I was actually trying to look that up and remember Was there no in between the Microsoft guys and Bolero?
No, it went straight from them to, they there was a sort of an in between in that they went from investing a lot of money and accepting losses for a few years, and then that ended. So that was sort of like a different type of ownership at that point. But because then it had to be self-sustainable at that point, and that's the way it became attractive to be able to sell it to a great buyer. So it's interesting how that all went, and I was definitely right in the middle of all of it. And as we're in the middle of all of it, we're trying to continue building interest in what's happening and doing great shows. But ESPN was a great partner too. I mean, it was great to be on ESPN. And I mean, so many great moments happened there. I mean, Pete Weber's greatest moment happened there, and Belmo's first wins, and Kelly Kulick winning, and there were so many great things that happened there in the regular the time slots that we would get with ESPN. But the dynamics of the relationship didn't necessarily give us the best opportunity to grow that Fox brought.
So moving on a little bit, where do we stand currently with this? I'll say so-called rules committee. There's always been a rules committee, but like this new and improved announcement about the rules committee, or I forget what what it's actually coined as, but coming up with their kind of your own version of rules.
Oh, you're referring to, like, we hired Neil Stremmel, who was formerly the equipment specs and rules VP for the USBC, and and we're going to have our own rules for the PBA, and we have rules for the new PBA League Bowler Certification Program. Neil just started a few months ago. I worked with him back when I was I worked for the USBC from 2005 to 2008, and Neil was there then, so I got to know him then, and I think he's as trusted as anyone in the industry with these types of issues on equipment and rules. And so and he ran the technical committee for the World Bowling for years too, and so he's known all around the world, and so he's just getting settled, and he's going to have a regular place to work and be able to test and come up with new standards for how we work with our product registered partners, and also work with bowlers and on how to set the rules for the game. And he's at it. He's working on it. So there's been rules posted, for our leagues, and there's nothing radically changing at this point. But then we'll have some new things for when the new season and the PBA Tour starts up. Again, nothing too radical, but it'll keep evolving, and that's the key, is you have to be able to evolve with what's going to happen. You never know the next controversy or the next big thing,
So if we can dive into that briefly, at least, I assume that all stems from the incidents from last year with the major storm banning and all of the purple hammer stuff before that. That's where that's coming from, I assume.
Well, I mean, that's definitely clearly a point, that's related, to it. But I think it's really more the advent of this new program is really more because of Bolero's opportunity to utilize the PBA brand and the PBA that they own and support, in conjunction with the amount of league bowlers and the amount of tournament play that we can do, even for bowlers of all skill levels, that can be a larger community immediately, and they can create these programs. It's not a completely new idea that the PBA have its own league program, or like the Bolero started the PBA junior program. That's something we always really wanted to do, but we didn't have the resources or the footprint to be able to do it. And now with Bolero, they can. So to be able to do all the things they want to do, also just having control of its own rules is a natural step. But yeah, I mean, obviously, clearly, last year was difficult for everybody in the industry to see how things progressed there, and I don't even know that we're completely, through with it yet. It was an unusual time, and these some bowling balls that are out now have different characteristics and chemistry that are reacting in ways that no one really has ever seen before. Right. So, it's no one's fault that there has to be research to be able to make calls on them. And so that's what we're involved with.
How did you navigate that last year? I mean, how did you figure
out?
Well,
it became a controversy the year, even 1 or 2 years before. And
so you got a little game plan then, since it kind of happened a few years before, and not really a game plan, but you kind of said, okay, here's
exactly.
How we're going to go.
When you have, I mean, the PBA Tour is different from just all bowling. That's so. Right. First of all, it's just a different situation, and so you can, on the PBA Tour, have the specter of the idea that people have illegal equipment, and when
was that a pun? Real quick, was that a pun?
No, I noticed that. And then I remembered. Oh yeah, that ball was no, that wasn't what I meant. But having people just kind of making these types of accusations and rumors, it was like, well, let's prove that either right or wrong, and so, some of the early things that we did was, I remember going out in the truck at 2 a.m. and getting boxes of urethane bowling balls that hadn't been drilled, and checking their hardness and making sure, wait a minute, is there a problem at some level here where we're handing out balls to people that are not in spec? And we brought, the USBC worked with us. They came up and tested, and we sat there with them. Kirk Von Kruger and I, who was our tournament director, longtime tournament director, now in the Hall of Fame, and all the balls were fine, and then you kind of realize when you read the USBC reports from what they did in their testing at the US Open, and see that there's a dynamic here where a ball is getting softer with use, or certain balls made from certain years, are getting softer after amount of time. And so you have the debate then, what does that mean? Now, does it mean, well, that these balls are legal at the manufacturing stage, so they should always be, or are they legal at the manufacturing stage, but after a certain amount of time, do they then read under a spec or out of spec for what the rules are, and is that good or bad for the game? And so there was a lot of decision making that had to be, and so we started the last year with our own durometer and doing our own field testing on the PBA, which is a flawed system. I mean, it's very difficult to get everything correct when you're traveling around on a truck, and the temperature is uncontrollable and things like that. And so you have to do you have to have a lot of controls over how you're field testing. And so we built in, variables there, and we really worked extremely hard on it. And there were incidents that happened and the most important thing is that no player was trying to ever cheat. No company was ever trying to cheat. There was no one that was doing anything on purpose, to try and go around rules, at least in our estimation. And it was just a matter of, well, there's just a new thing in bowling. We've got to figure out if this is okay or not okay, and there's got to be a line. There's got to be a set. So we moved forward with a lot of these controls, and then ultimately fell on the rule that went for the rest of the year, which was in the urethane bowling ball category, we put a 2-year shelf life on those balls and said, okay, if it's made within 2 years, it's in play. If it was made 2 years before that, it's out of play because of this softening, with use or over time. And, that fixed some problems, but it also, entered in some new problems, because you guys know, and I know, there's plenty of old urethane balls that would punch 78 right now. And why are you throwing those out? I mean, so you kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater to just try to make sure there wasn't anybody, so there's a lot of things, a lot of imperfection, but always with the goal of as fair as possible. and
And
always
also what counts as a urethane ball too, you know what I mean? Like, because even some of the new quote unquote urethane balls aren't really true urethane, at least to our understanding. So
hybrids and
yeah,
correct. So, we even had to do that. Let's talk to all the ball companies about what's urethane, what isn't. Why is this one not? We went through all that. Worked extremely closely with all the ball companies. I love all those guys. I mean, I've worked with the CEOs and the owners of like the Bill Chrismans of the world, Corey Dykstra, the brothers at Motive. These are all great people that are just always trying to grow bowling, and I've really been proud of the relationships and partnerships we've had with them all, through the years. And so always want to be also fair to them. So I never wanted to spotlight any one ball or ban any one ball or, based on not really enough data to do that. And so we made it about the field. And then we went far enough with the field testing to know that it's unnecessary in a lot of cases. And in the cases where it is necessary, we know what the issue is in terms of overtime. So we made that call. Now, what we do going into next year and whether there'll be ways to make those rules better, that's what Neil's working on now.
Interesting.
Something we were talking about.
It's definitely interesting, but it was not fun. I'll tell you that.
No, definitely not. I mean, it's a rabbit hole too, because there's so many things that could go wrong or change over time. New cover stocks, this, that, this. Yeah, like you said, what's legal and what's not when it comes out of the manufacturer, when it sits for 2 years. So as long as you change the rule a little bit so I can use my favorite purple hammer after this year, we'll see what happens.
He's the charcoal king. That's what we call him. The purple score maker.
Purple score maker.
But we were talking with your dad, Anthony's dad, Jack, and he was a regional player and tour stop player. I don't know if he would call himself like a full-time tour player at one time, but
a little bit.
But I should say regional champion, not just a regional tour player,
whatever.
Regional champion. But he would talk about how they would get hardness tested before every single tournament, all of their balls.
Yeah, and they only brought 3.
No, I understand. Right? What I'm getting at is think about all of the bowling balls that were tossed out back then, possibly, because back then that's when, guys were actually throwing them in the trunks of their cars or putting them in actually making them softer. But think about all the, like your dad, actually, the guy punched his ball and it was quote unquote soft.
He tried to throw it out.
Yeah, and he tried to throw it out on him. He's like, "You're not throwing that ball away."
Yeah, my dad tried to fight the guy.
But anyway,
I gotta tell the story. You gotta telling me when he wasn't happy about it.
But anyway, it's just interesting. And what we learned last year, we learned a lot more about bowling ball hardness and bowling ball testing than we ever thought we would know. And to realize that no matter how much you try, there is no science. Like there's obviously science, but to be able to get the right number, we hand tested, which we know is not accurate. But we bought durometers and we hand tested. We could punch a ball 27 times and it would show 27 different readings. So it's like, and I understand it's the average and all that stuff, but like it is not a perfect science by any means.
No.
Yeah, and that's why in our rules we built in a 2-point variance and allowed for that because you couldn't make a draconian call or measure when you couldn't test perfectly, which is like saying it's almost impossible to do that. That wasn't setting a line lower. That was taking into consideration a variance, and there's a difference, with that, and it's not easy to understand. And I learned a lot more about bowling balls than I ever wanted to as well, and I talked to, I spent more time talking to experts in this field, including the greats of the game, Carmen Salvinos and Johnny Petraglia, and Larry Lickstein ran our player services. He's in the Hall of Fame, for years, and he knows more about this kind of thing than anyone, and told me all about every method of testing through the history of the PBA. In terms of they used to test just certain numbers of random numbers of players who made the cut, or random numbers in the top 12 or top 24. And then there were times when it was every ball before, and the days of the mill hole, and there's been a lot of ways, and we're not alone as a sport to have equipment specification issues and rules issues that come up, and like you're saying, you can't predict what the next one's going to be. I mean, the next issue might be, who knows, what it'll be, and it'll come up, and we'll be positioned to handle it.
Just so everybody knows, college baseball just had their issue this year. Did you know college baseball, they had a illegal bat? Guy from Tennessee hit a home run.
Oh.
Umpire looked at it and said, doesn't count, throw the bat out, see you later. So they're having some issue with bats. I don't think it's huge, but I'm assuming that the scale of it is enormous after how many bats you sell.
Because it's a metal bat, so it's not something you can. I mean, I'm sure they can figure out a way to make it.
It's got to come off the bat at a certain speed, which is why the old school BESR was super fast, and now it's BB Core. So if it comes off the bat at too fast for the level, it's not legal. So I guess they outlawed it after they tested it, and the kids still used it. Not smart. So everybody's got it. He's right. All sports got issues. Yeah.
So you're still expecting to be working with the USBC, I assume, anyway, because they're certifying the equipment. You guys aren't going to be certifying equipment, it sounds like.
Well, we will. We'll PBA certify it, so we will be. But we work together on everything. I was just working with USBC today on the next year's US Open and the Masters, and how we work together on those big events. And so we're still working together, and we'll share information and about equipment, anything that we find, and anything that when they release their reports, what they say really matters to us. So no, we still work together.
So when you say certify for the PBA, are you guys possibly investing into the same type of laboratory type situation that they have at the USBC, or what is that?
Not initially. I think we're coming up with Neil and our group are coming up with a new way to standardize, and we'll be coming out with all that information pretty soon, and working really closely with all the ball companies, and trying to figure out the best way that we can break into this without it being a full lab of everything coming through. There's ways to utilize field testing. There's ways to utilize standardizing of manufacturing principles and concepts, and the way that manufacturing works at every place that makes bowling balls. And so there's different ways to approach it, and that's kind of what we're getting to the point where we can tell everybody, here's how we plan to do it.
Very cool. I like that.
So it sounds like not for probably this season, but for upcoming season.
Probably won't impact what's happening in the season, but the rules will go into play, and we will gradually get into it. But you can assume field testing will always be back as part of the PBA. How and when we do it isn't outlined yet, but there was a long time period where we did not, and we just were not positioned to do it, did not do it, and now we're back with the resources to be able to.
So switching gears a little bit, before we get into the upcoming season and things that are going on this year, I always like to ask our PBA players, or in this case the commish, what do you think the current state of the game is, aside from the PBA, where the guys are the best of the best? The hacks like us, bowling on house conditions, which Anthony knows I call bumper bowling. So basically what I'm getting at, what do you think about the scoring pace? What do you think about the numbers of league bowlers these days? Kind of give us your take on where the state of the game is.
Well, I mean, I feel, let's say a feeling. The feeling that I have is that everything is really looking up. I mean, it's this COVID period of time really confusing. It's really clouded a lot of issues, because the way you felt before, you almost can't remember. at least me. And I'm like, wait a minute. So here's where we were. Then nothing mattered for a while. All that mattered was like survival and coming back. And so what's been
Keep the doors
great,
open.
yeah, and then what's going to happen when you can open the doors? That was a scary time. I mean, and what's great, and what's my first thought when you ask me the state of the game is everybody came back. Everybody wants to bowl. That's what it feels like, and they want to bowl. And it seems like they want to bowl more, and they want to bowl in all the different ways. The social aspect, tournaments. These tournaments are, I don't know, they seem like they're doing really well. I mean, again, I'm not talking about exact data, but just the feeling of being out every weekend at bowling centers and seeing the number of people that are competing and in different events, and in our regional program as well. It's been really encouraging, and league bowling. It seems like, I was afraid in my own league, in my own bowling center, the home center here in Muskego, Alpine Lanes. Is everybody going to come back? They all came back. Everybody's back, and we actually never left. I mean, we were bowling all the way through, but it didn't impact it. It seems to have made everybody want to bowl even more. Most bowling centers, if you talk to them, say business is great. When I talk to the BPAA, they tell me the business is great. Bolero is loving the business. Pro shops, I don't know about you guys, how you're doing, but a lot of the pro shop people that I've been talking to are really feeling great about the amount of equipment that's being sold and the interest in buying stuff. So I feel like there's a great vibe. I also feel like the level of play continues to improve from a technical aspect of how people bowl. I think kids are getting better earlier, and largely because of better instruction, better exposure to the best players on platforms like YouTube, where you can just sit there and just study people and try to be like them. And I think the basics of the game seem to be being grasped earlier, and people are competing at higher levels and searching out for more challenges and challenging lane conditions. And I wouldn't mix league bowling and house shot bowling with that. They're just kind of different. I don't even know the word house shot has always confused me because my house doesn't feel that easy. So some house shots are easier than others. And some people have developed games on certain houses where they match up there, then go to another house shot somewhere else, and they don't match up there. So it's not like you're just a 230 average bowler on a house shot. You're 230 average bowler on your house shot.
It's funny you bring that up because somebody tweeted us or messaged us from Bayside Bowl, and he's like, or maybe it wasn't us, but I saw it on Twitter, and he's like, we don't have quote unquote house shots here. Every shot is a sports shot at Bayside Bowl, which is pretty sick.
Bayside only bowls on PBA shots.
That's awesome.
But here's the other thing about Bayside that I love. They don't care because they're not getting an average for a handicap because they don't use handicap there. So they don't use handicap in their leagues. All their leagues are scratch, and their leagues are built so that you can have multiple types of skill players on your team. You can't have a loaded team. So they make it social and competitive without handicap on sports shots and with no prize money to cloud that issue. So they don't bowl. You don't even bowl for prize money there. They're bowling for a banner and to win. They're all there to win and have fun. And money doesn't get in the way. Handicap doesn't get in the way. There's no sandbaggers, so, and they have the greatest rule I've ever heard in bowling, which I got to get Neil to put this in our rules, but I'm sorry. Pardon my language, but their rule is don't be an asshole. Their rule is if you are, you're out. And I've seen them do it. Charlie Mitchell, the proprietor there and the guy who built that league, we've got him on our PBA league bowler certification program board of advisors because I love that guy and I love his outlook for the game, and maybe we got to get that rule. So
like that.
Do you think with your own program, are you guys gonna be maybe putting in some of their rules as he's on your board?
I think it's too early to say, and you don't want to shock anybody's system, but offering that perspective to more people will hopefully inspire them to try it,
Right.
and because I don't know if you guys have been there, but it's I think it's the best league I've ever seen, and it's the most fun league I've ever seen. And we're talking about, like a 10-lane house here
Right.
on the end, and they have 50 teams in that league. So they don't all bowl at the same time. They bowl in shifts, they bowl each day of the week. It's kind of like a big softball league that would play on like 3 different fields, and you're scheduled at different times in a way.
They don't even have multiple. It's one house, one league, and it's 5 nights a week, 50 teams.
Basically like what you're saying. Yeah. Then they have a couple other seasons where they have other leagues, and they have a draft league. They have a couple other different leagues, but for the most part, what you just said is basically it. They're all part of that. It's awesome.
It's all of the bowlers in the house. It's not like here where I don't know these guys on Tuesdays or whatever. Everybody gets to kind of be involved, and it's a one big
community. Yeah. It's almost like you almost get the feeling of a country club in a way. It's like they're part of a club,
right?
And they're in Bopo, it's called, and and so you're in that, and it's really special what he's built. And I've always wanted people to pick up on the way that they do things there, and and so hopefully we can have that kind of impact moving forward. It's not one thing I've learned through all these years is change is not as easy as you want it to be. I mean, you want it to just be right now and get it done, and you'd start to learn that it's got to be gradual. You have to be patient,
Right. Yeah, we do some of that stuff here. We have our own little club where we get to bowl and that stuff, and it's not a tournament, but we kind of get everybody together, guys who want to get better, and then we create different divisions so that way people are able to compete, and we just do it that way.
Try to have a little fun
and learning. That way people can understand what they're doing. We run it like a regional, so there's a practice day before. Guys have questions, we can try and help them out a little bit, or ball choices, or show the pattern graph. And then we go from there, and we give everybody the opportunity to feel like it's a PBA event. So practice, and then we bowl the next day, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool experience.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, the word fun can sometimes be misconstrued. It's like that doesn't mean goof off and it's a birthday party. Fun for me, fun. It's only fun if there's competition. That's what's fun.
Yep.
So for the next person, it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have a little weight behind it. You know what I mean? Just to be like, I'm going to enjoy myself, see what we're doing, bowl against my friends, and then go home. So,
all right. So in just a second here, we are going to talk about the upcoming season and including the Jimmie Allen event. Before we do, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell to get alerts, all that good stuff. Check out our merch shop on Etsy. So the Jimmie Allen event, the Jimmie Allen PBA Challenge. There we go.
Enunciation.
Yes, I can speak well. I talk good. Just happened last night. I saw some videos and pictures out in the social media verse. So tell us about it. How did it go? Was it a good time?
It was a good time. I mean, it was definitely fun. And I think everybody that was there had a good time for sure. I haven't seen the show yet. There's some editing that has to happen and to put that show together. We were there till about midnight last night. And but it was it's kind of like a Chris Paul event. It was kind of like that, but with the added bonus of a full-on concert, and so we had a concert before on a stage we built on the lanes, and it was really cool. Ronnie Russell is obviously a PBA champion, but he also can sing country music. He's a great country music singer, good country music singer. You can't say great and then say, these guys who are Grammy winners are great too. I mean, it's kind of like bowlers. He's a great bowler. Well, he's not as great as Hackett or but Ronnie can really sing, and so it was really special to have him kind of open that concert. I thought it was great for him, and he got to meet some of his heroes in country music and actually open for him, and so But no, we had and this Jimmie Allen he's awesome. Yeah, I'm not really that knowledgeable about country music. Growing up in New York, and just I wasn't really involved in country. It seems to have evolved a lot. It seems more like pop music to me now. I mean, when I'm watching a Jimmie Allen, and I'm like, wow, he's really good. I mean, he's a great performer, great artist, the vibe of country music is another one that I don't have much experience with, but I loved it last night. I felt like it was so positive, and it was everyone was just feeling really, lucky to be there and lucky to be performing. Even the performers just seemed to really take a joy in it, and they're doing it for free last night. I mean, they were just doing it to jam and to put on a show for the people that were in the bowling center, and then move over and watch them bowl, and add in the celebs that can throw the ball pretty good, like T.O. and Nelly was really he's great to watch, and Nelly can bowl. I mean, I wouldn't that guy used to bowl.
Seen him bowl yet, right?
Yeah, he was on Chris Paul. We did. He came to New Orleans. I think it was the second or third Chris Paul event, and he won the Clash. And then and he had like 6 strikes in a row. Then he bowled with Pete Weber was his partner, and they shot 280. And when they shot 280, Baker, Pete was the one who didn't strike. Nelly struck every ball in that game. It's on YouTube.
What did they bowl on?
Last night we used a 38-foot pattern. It was called the Jimmie Allen pattern. We made it for this event. So
38 feet. I'm out.
But at the we've always used pretty competitive patterns at the Chris Paul. Actually, I mean, you're watching pros right on TV with them. You can see it's not dead walled or anything. And after that 280 that Nelly and People, remember, I think their next game they might have shot 150 and they lost. They didn't win that tournament. But Nelly bowled action in St. Louis when he was younger, so he's got that kind of sneaky ability, So he's good to watch, and T.O. keeps getting better. I mean, that guy, talk about refining your game and trying to learn how to post shots. He looks really good. This Jimmie Allen is a rising star in music, and he loves bowling. I mean, he said to me last night, he said, I've been all over the world. He just got back from Australia. He's been all over the world. He's opened for his heroes. He's on tour with Carrie Underwood now, so he's opening for Carrie Underwood. He's done so many different things in his life, and he said one of the greatest rushes he's ever had was last night when the pin sweep came down for the first time, and it said the Jimmie Allen PBA Challenge. I mean, it made him feel so happy and proud that his interest in this game has led to this moment. And so he'll be the type of person that will continue promoting bowling to different types of audiences and attracting, people that are very influential to get more people bowling. So I'm really excited about the relationship that we've built with him and a lot of our players like Sean Rash and AJ Johnson, EJ Tackett, Ronnie, and a lot of these guys, Kyle Troop, a lot of these guys have been working with him and helping him all along, and will continue to. And I think you'll see Jimmie at a lot of PBA events down the road. He throws it pretty good. I mean, he was throwing it 16.5, 17 miles an hour, high revolution. He's got some things to work on with his release, and but he's a bowler too. So there's bowlers combined with PBA bowlers. So I've always liked this event as a felt like a Chris Paul.
Well, I've got a bone to pick with Jimmie Allen.
Uh-oh.
You're gonna really bring this up.
I'm gonna bring it up because if anybody can help me out, it's the commish.
Go ahead.
So I find out like a week and a half ago that Jimmie Allen is literally coming here, not to Town and Country Lanes, but he was coming here this past Saturday to a brewery to play. Okay. So I tweet at him and I make a video and I challenge him to a match, and he doesn't take me up on it. And he was right in the street, and he knows, he saw it. I know he saw the video. He liked the tweet. He liked the Instagram post. He liked it all. I know he saw it. So that's my bone to pick. So if you can, phone a friend for me next time he's in, we can have a bowling.
I'll tell you, he's up for a match. I'll tell you that, because I think he wants to bowl as often as possible. So if he didn't take up on it,
the ball,
well, he may. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a busy guy here. I mean, he's in a different city.
Whatever.
He can break 20 minutes off to come
That's
down.
how the bowling alley. Listen, not even this one. His uncle's bowling alley, literally down the street
door
from where he was playing.
Oh,
literally down the street. Yeah, he had no excuses. No excuses.
Well, Twitter is where this one started. He DM'd me and said, hey, I want to tell me how I can get more involved with the PBA, and that conversation just evolved to how about hosting this show and doing a concert, and he said we'll do anything, So it was great to see that, and I think that was just in over 2 or 3 months and put that together, and now it'll be on Big Fox on October 16th. I mean, I hope it turns out all right, and it's in a great time slot. I mean, we get this opportunity every year because of this Fox relationship to be on Big Fox on an NFL Sunday, and that means just a gigantic lead in to our show because of the huge audiences watching the NFL game that's on before us, and then we come on and. In the first match you're going to see is a great NFL Hall of Famer, T.O. bowling, and you're going to see him bowling and his partner is A.J. Johnson, and they won the Chris Paul event last year, so they're like sort of the defending champions, and they're going to be bowling against a team of Nelly and Kyle Troop. I mean, so you get to watch great PBA players who are exciting, young and dynamic, combined with superstars and who really love the game. And, it invites a lot of people to stick around and be aware of the fact that there's bowling, there's PBA bowling, get out and go bowling. I think it'll make a lot of people want to go bowl.
Are we going to be able to see any of the concert on that show also?
Yeah, there'll be clips, and there'll be, I hope we eventually can put everything uncut on YouTube. That's what I'm hoping. I hope we can do that.
My dream is the full live event, for 4 hours straight. Concert, bowling match,
4 hours straight.
Player profiles for the upcoming season. You know what I mean? I
think it was. We had the red carpet yesterday around.
That's what I want that on live TV too.
Yeah, you'll see clips from that, but that was from 3 o'clock, and I think we finished a little before midnight. So it was a long day, but everybody that was there had a good time.
A whole day for the draft.
That's right.
What is it per hour for live television? That's got to be a lot of dollars. It's got to be a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited because I think that was I wasn't a watcher of the CP3. I'm not saying it was bad for bowling or anything, but I just wasn't interested. I think this is a bit more interesting for me as far as doing a concert and having guys that are true bowlers like Jimmie Allen and T.O. T.O. is a regular now, it seems.
Yeah.
He's legit.
Yeah, I know.
We were watching it last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were like, man, T.O. throws it good, man. He's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
You said posting it. I'm pretty sure that's what we said. It was all about posting.
Anthony wants the bus, by the way. You got to get the bus.
Get the bus
out, we've had him bowling before with T.O. once, and T.O. has become a friend. I mean, he's a great guy. He's really a great guy, and he's got a weird like persona in the media that makes people think differently of him, but you can rely on him. Let me tell you. And I bowled USBC Open with him 3 or 4 times. I mean, I bowled doubles with him at the USBC Open one year.
Cool.
But when he first got interested in bowling, I think it was I made a slight mistake in that. I got really excited that he was taking it so seriously. I'm like, you should bowl the World Series of bowling. And he bowled the World Series. It was at South Point, and I mean, that was 5 grueling days of extremely difficult, patterns against the best players in the world who were, not there to kid around. I mean, this was their livelihood. I mean, this was and T.O.'s not there to kid around either. I'm not saying he didn't, he fit in from that perspective. He was competing, but, he wasn't ready to compete at that level. And, and most of us aren't. And I was a little bit concerned that, if you get run over at an event like that, it could really kind of diminish your interest in continuing to get better or make you feel like, well, I'll never get there. But to his credit, even though he took that beating, he kept getting better and he kept up with the game. He just cares about it. Mookie Betts is the other one, and he would have been there last night, but their playoff start, so he couldn't get in there. But Mookie, we did not rush into the World Series because I could tell from him the first time I saw him bowl, he's a legitimate.
He's got a great game.
He can be a PBA bowler if he just dedicated himself for not even a year, and he would fit in on tour.
He probably will be once he retires, right? I mean,
yeah, probably will. I mean, look what John Burkett did this year at the PBA 50. He won a title. I mean, that's awesome. He's still the best all time. Player from a different sport who takes over. Crossover. He's the best, but Mookie can definitely be that. And as you know, Mookie bowled 300 at the World Series.
Yeah. It's funny to see because you see all those athletes that are elite and their greatest achievement in sports. You can see it in magazines as, oh, I've bowled a 300 or I won a PBA regional. It's nothing where they're in the Hall of Fame or I rushed for this many yards. It's like, no, dude, I got a 300. Like, and it's like, what the heck? And people don't really see that. I mean, guess if they're having a conversation about their sport or in their ESPN, it doesn't really come up like, hey, what's your greatest accomplishment on the field? Not what's your greatest accomplishment of all time. And it's like, well, it shot 300. So wish it was a little more out there because it seems like a lot of guys who retired have success or have found success. And they're avid bowlers. They keep the competitive juices going.
It's a great avenue for them because you can't keep playing. Although Tio looks like he could still play, and he's like 47 or something. But
he's like, I run a 4.40. He's he's still, I'm ready to go. Somebody give me a call. I mean, Steelers might as well give him a call. They stink,
but I've always thought that too. That it's a great, golf is too. It's like, well, if I want to still compete into later years past my prime in a really high impact physical sport like football or basketball or something and get into a golf or bowling, it's a great way to channel your competitive edge. And a lot of them have done it. And the great thing about the Chris Paul event and this event this year is the respect that you see for the PBA players. I mean, that's what I really love about it is when you get a Chris Paul or a LeBron James or Dwayne Wade, and they love to learn from pro bowlers what goes into their game because they're so in tune with what it takes to be at the top of a sport. And they really admire and respect people that can get to that level. They understand it more than anybody. So, and all I've ever seen at any of those events was just a full, respect for the ability of a PBA bowler.
Very cool.
If you got a couple more minutes, I got a couple more questions that I know we got to get to. Upcoming season schedule, how are we looking? Is it we got any more stops? We got more money? What's coming for this season?
Well, it's not ready to be announced yet, so there's not many specifics I can give, unfortunately. But it should be coming in a couple of weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks. It'll be all out there for everybody. But there'll be some really good things, some really great things for fans, some original concepts. I think you'll see the major championships take on an even bigger presence. Some shifts in the schedule for when things are that I think will be better for players and for the fans in the PBA. So there's a lot of great things working together with Fox and Bolero to put together a great campaign. I think you're going to see that. I think the thing that I think about too, besides just the schedule and the venues, which of course is key, is the players, and which players are working at it, which players are bowling a lot of regionals or you talk to and you figure out where they're practicing or what they're looking forward to in the next season, because we have a certain level of superstar out there, the Belmos and Simo and EJ and Jacob Buttriff and Tommy Jones is still at the top of his game, Sean Rash, and you see there's guys from different eras and different ways of bowling that are still all up there. But then you look at that next tier and you say, who's going to be the next guy? Is it Packy Hanrahan, or is it Kyle Sherman, or who's going to emerge? And that's the part that I find really interesting every year. Chris Prather was like, no one was really thinking of him, and now he's upper echelon. He's who you're thinking of every single tournament, and that makes it interesting,
So are we going to see maybe some more travel, or more to different areas at least, to get kind of more visual for people in different cities?
Yeah, well, we're taking geography into play for where the major pillars of the season are, and then working around those with where we can get to geographically with our player services and for the players who are out on the tour. And it's always tricky, and you always want to get to as many areas as possible without making it prohibitive for people. And so we've been able to do some special events in different regions of the country in order to try to get to touch each place. But it's always been the biggest one of the biggest frustrations for me, and the biggest question I get from fans is, are you coming here? Are you coming here? And you can't be everywhere, so you can never please everybody. I wish, but we found some really just great venues that you want to keep going back to year in, year out. And you already know with the Masters and the U.S. Open have already been announced. And so we already know we're going to be at Woodland Bowl, which is one of the great venues in history. And we're going to be at Thunder Bowl in Detroit, which is another one of the most historic venues in history, that in both places I love. So those are guaranteed to be great fan events and great competitions whenever you're in Indianapolis or Detroit.
So some interesting news that doesn't affect a lot of people, but a lot of regional bowlers, I would say, probably more often than the PBA bowlers. The new signing on of not all, but I guess the majority of the sublimated jerseys is pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's much to say about it, but I think for us guys that bowl very limited amount of regionals, and it's very expensive to buy those shirts if you choose to wear those. It's nice to be able to get in those other options, but you did have them sign on as the exclusive jerseys for the league, right? Kind of like, it almost seems like Reebok's the uniform for the NFL. Is that right?
Well, we had High Five was exclusive for the entire PBA. Now they're
Right.
going to be exclusive for the PBA League, which essentially means that all of the jerseys in the league for when you're wearing a team jersey will be High Five, and they'll provide them, and we work together that way, and they have that distinction. And with High Five, and we really built the whole dye sublimated jersey market for bowling. I mean, I remember starting it, and we had to figure out partners. The first partner we had was called Gemini, and they came from bass fish. They came from fishing, and that's where we kind of stole the idea, was for what they were doing. And I remember the first bowler that I remember talking to about dye sublimated jerseys was actually Chris Barnes, and I think that was in 2008, and we pulled the trigger and made that the way the PBA was going to look, and it was going to give the players this opportunity to bring their personality out more by designing their own jerseys. It was going to be better for advertisers and their partners, and make the players more attractive to sponsors, because it wasn't going to be patches stuck all over the place. It was going to be jerseys with dye sublimated sponsor logos, and like anything new, like we were talking about with change earlier. Most people didn't like it at first. I'm like, what are you making us do? We don't want to wear these shirts. This is ridiculous. So I had to figure out ways to get really free shirts for them, for the players to start with. And I remember the first tournaments, seeing them out there and going, isn't this great? I mean, we're changing the game. I mean, and it was iffy. It was people that were like some in, some out. With any kind of change, that's what's going to happen. And now it just seems like, of course,
everybody's got one.
of course you do dye sublimated jersey. Yeah, what else would you do? It's like it's funny how things are. The World Series of bowling was that way too. It was like, well, what is this? This is crazy. I don't like this. What's this mean? I don't understand. And now it's like, when's the World Series of bowling? That's the one we're waiting for. So it's interesting going through all these years. But High Five is still a partner, but now, we've got a lot of new companies that are available, and it gives players those options. They can become sponsored by them. They can work with whoever they want. But I'll tell you, one thing that a lot of people don't seem to know, if you're a PBA member, you can buy jerseys at $65. So the PBA members have a great discount built in, and that'll be for every dye sub company that's product registered. So it's like a reason to join the PBA. And get your shirts cheaper. But we have those same type of deals with bowling ball companies as well. So
right. Yeah. I have one last question. It's very important to me. So we haven't heard any news yet, and it's like I feel like the season is very, very nearby. So the streaming deal was announced with Bowl TV for the PBA 50.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like college bowling is there. Women's is there. PWBA. I feel like you're going to announce this on Downlane Podcast tonight. I'm just. Can we expect the PBA to be streamed on Bowl TV? And before you answer, if I could influence you in any way, one-stop streaming is the only way to go. Go ahead.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with that statement. I mean, I have so much history with that too. That's another one that was kind of new when we started Extra Frame. I mean, and then Extra Frame went to Flow Bowling, and I'll tell you, when Flow Bowling's first year, it was fantastic. It was awesome. It was better than any streaming had ever been, and my argument at the time was everything should be there. Everything should be on Flow Bowling. Kind of like along this argument now, but I can just tell you we're working on it right now. We're working through that. Bolero is working on it. Our key people, our team is working on what's the best option. Of course, we understand that viewpoint, and that's on the table. But we're working through all the logistics and to see what's the best way to do it. I mean, when we went to Flow, I'll give you some history. But when we went to Flow, it was at the deal that we had with New Lion, which was our platform for Extra Frame, was ending the same year that our deal with ESPN was ending. And so there was when you have a deal, you can't just leave that deal. So you have to go through that deal and then have a negotiation window. And your first negotiation is with your current partner. And so what we were doing at the time with our media rights was to try to sell both together. So you're selling the linear television with the OTT streaming together, and who would be the best partner that would want both. And the way it turned out, ESPN was interested in both, and were just starting ESPN3, and we had, but they had their idea for how the deal would look wasn't as good overall as with Fox, but Fox wasn't interested at the time in the streaming side. They were only interested in the linear TV side. So the idea was, okay, well, we're splitting. So now we're going to split streaming and do that rights deal, media deal separately. That's where, through all the communications, we hooked up with Flow, and they made us a great offer to have the rights to streaming. So we ended up with, when we left ESPN, we left the Extra Frame at the same time and moved the television to Fox, the streaming to Flow. So now you get to another point in time, and when there's a renegotiation, now is your television partner also interested in streaming, or is it going to be separate? And how's the timing work out? So there's a lot of moving parts. It's not as easy as you want it to be, as I would like it to be too, where you just go, yep, this is what we're doing, done, and you want to get the best possible scenario for everybody, and consider the fans, and consider the the investment of your partners and consider the ability and what the partners can do. So, and my history is so long that I remember literally starting Bull TV. When I was at USBC, we started Bull TV, and I think the video is still on YouTube of me standing there with hair. So I don't know. Live streaming may have knocked my hair right out.
We should have pulled that picture because it's yeah, you did have hair.
And I just remember standing there and doing an interview about, here it is, it's Bull TV. We've started it, the USBC, and that was 2006, I think, or 5. So,
is this thing on? Hello.
Yeah. But anyway, that's another one that's had a long history, and I think we'll end up with a great scenario for everybody.
That's always been my dream, is that not streaming, but just that bowling is covered like golf, where we see, I don't know that I don't watch golf, but I just know that at least 2 or 3 days of the coverage.
You killed me. I don't watch golf.
I'm just saying that I just know that it's on TV. At least 2 or 3 days of the tournament is covered. The problem that I see with bowling and or not bowling, the problem I see with the PBA in general is that for the lay person that isn't interested and isn't purchasing the streaming, they might tune into Fox after the football game or whatever, whenever it's on, and they just see the 4 bowlers that made TV and just are wondering how they got there. You know what I mean? They're totally clueless.
Sure. So yeah, I think that I was kind of alluding earlier to creative new ways that maybe we're elevating the majors and something along the lines of what you're saying. I think you might be seeing really soon. So
the dream might be coming true. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, at least we
say it out loud.
We get closer and closer to the dream.
Nice. Actually, I think you and I had a Twitter exchange probably 15 years ago where we talked about this. It wasn't too bad. You just told me to shut the hell up. No, no, I said something to that effect. I wanted that, I wanted the PBA on all week long, like, on TV. And then you're like, yeah, that costs money, stupid. You weren't that.
But in some ways, it costs money depending on how you do it. It costs more depending on how you do it. So if it was a traditional, if it's a traditional format, and you're not going to budge from that, and that means like a round robin, round of 24, to decide who the 5 are for the show, and you're going to shoot like the position round, which is going across 12 pairs, and you're going to light that up, and you're going to have cameras and score bugs, and and you're going to do all of that. Now that costs a lot of money. Now, if you're going to create multiple days to an event, but on the same TV set that you have the final and you move people in there, you can then almost save on production expense. So there's different ways to do these things. I mean, we did it. I'm actually in my office, and the year that I have posters on my wall, and this was 2000. I think it was 2011. And we had, like what you're saying, maybe we did it because of you. Did you tell me that before 2011?
Oh yeah, it was a long time ago.
Well, maybe we did it because of you. No,
it's just my yeah.
Yeah, but so I'm the World Championship, and the World Championship was on January 14, 15, and 16.
I remember that.
And then we did the U.S. Open was on February 25, 26, and 27. And I remember when we did that U.S. Open in 2011, we actually did light up the position round on the first day. And it's on YouTube too. You can watch it. And it's not that easy to follow or watch on a television broadcast. It's, it was also the first time we ever tried to do it. But I shared the enthusiasm you have for trying to make the major championships big events that have multiple shows. I mean, the World Series is kind of like that as well. Those are different titles, but it's still 4 or 5 shows based on one event. And we've been able to do those live for like consecutive nights for every year we've been on Fox, which has been kind of awesome weeks. I mean, it would have been unheard of in the glory days of the PBA to say, well, the PBA's on every night this week in prime time, and we've done that for like 3 straight years, So Well, I understand what you're saying, and I think that it's a great idea because those early shows, serve as a promotion for the
Mhm.
final,
Right.
and it's what you see at tennis. I mean, if you're watching tennis, even a tennis fan, pretty much watches the majors. They watch the US Open and Wimbledon and the Australian Open and the French. They don't really get to see the Cincinnati Open very much or those types of events. But
Is there a Cincinnati Open? I didn't even know.
when you watch the US Open tennis, you watch for like 2 weeks straight. Every night, you're watching the people get eliminated and all that great stuff that happened with Serena Williams this year. Shit, that was the third round. I mean, it wasn't like we were watching the championship only. Like you said, with bowling, it's always just you come on and you only see the finals. So,
Right.
that's why we were proud of Extra Frame and wanted to try to grow that for the true fans to be able to watch everything. But like you said, it doesn't compare to the impact of it being on broadcast television or network television. So I think we're getting closer to doing more of it. But we did do it in 2011.
Yes. I do remember that. I do remember. It was very exciting, and I'm very excited that you're making this announcement. It sounds like
here we go.
It might be coming.
Kyle's
What?
gonna have a huge head the rest of the night.
I won't be able to get out of the pro shop.
I have one question though.
I said that was the last question.
No. Listen, this is not even as close to as grueling as Kyle's question. We need a bowling stadium. What do you think? 2 lanes, seats all the way around, people yelling, signs that say defense. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, we have a bowling stadium in Reno.
Well, yes, I didn't mean it like that. I meant like, all the way around.
A bowling bowl.
2 lanes. Everybody's
Coliseum, huh?
Yeah, like they used to have. They used to have where you could yell at the guys. I think that'd be awesome.
I think they call that Bayside.
Yeah, I know, but
well, the best venue that we currently have that's like that is Detroit, is Thunderbolt, the arena. I don't know. Have you guys ever been there before?
We have not.
It's a worth the trip. You should bowl the Masters. The Butchers should bowl the Masters. I mean,
that's weird because I was like, hey man, I'm getting married this year, or next year. So before everything kind of, I should probably go bowl the Masters. And then we were actually talking about how to get there if Kyle decides to go. But I think I'm going to go.
Yeah, Detroit's not far from New York. You're going to be fine. But that arena actually started exactly at what you described. The first, the original venue there back in the 50s, 60s was built for the professional league at the time, and it was only matches that were in there, and it was 4 lanes, and they had big scoreboard above where people actually did the scores by hand, and they had the arena was all built with fans all the way around it, and it went up, and there was a sky deck, and all these things still exist. But what happened was they actually built over it and put 20 lanes in instead of just those 4, so they could turn it into an open bowling place, a place for more bowling instead of just create an arena to sell tickets to. Right. But the frameworks is still there, so that's why our shows look so cool in there, and we can get more people in there and stadium type seating and stuff like that. But the other idea was let's just have 2 and let's keep this stadium. The Weber Cup sort of does that every year.
Yeah, it does.
And remember when I was talking earlier tonight during this interview, I think it was 4 or 5 hours ago. In Syracuse, New York, we had a 2-lane stadium in the basement of a television studio that was fixed lighting, fixed seating, brought in the finals every week to be on TV, and we had a championship bowling, which was for junior bowlers. I was on that show myself. I bowled against the PBA. I bowled on a Beat the Pro match with a guy named Marty Pirano, who was one of the greatest bowlers in New York State history. He won 4 PBA titles, and so I always grew up with the same idea. Like, well, why if we just had that but bigger, and we brought everybody in there, and that could,
it'd be tough. I'm sure selling tickets.
So we had both
doing all that is tough.
The TV tournament time lanes at the TV station here as well. That was
we did
pre-Capital
pre-V
Region.
bowling.
Yeah.
I
Where
remember
the
that.
last TV show traveled around. But before that, in the 80s and maybe 90s, they had TV tournament time, and that was at the TV station, just like you're saying. And that's where your dad bowled.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I think it'd be cool.
And then we had
I
the
want a
arena
defense sign
back in the
That's it.
I think it was the the early 2000s when the stop was here at Bowlers Club. They had an arena setting.
Yes.
Did
Yes.
Yeah.
At,
Yep.
at
That's cool.
Siena, I think.
Say Kyle's
Showing his
looking at
age.
us like we know.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
old. I know.
2000, I was only freaking 4 years old.
I was 6. So
Yes, but it was at Siena, if I remember correctly, at an arena setting. But they had to build the whole thing. You know, you had to build a whole TV set, the lanes, everything.
that's
So
a lot of stuff to do.
yeah.
Well, we created the PBA league in 2013, and the idea behind that was it could go in a number of directions depending on the popularity and the success of it. And one of the iterations was to have home fields, a home center for each team. And if those teams had their center and that center had a built-in studio so that when they hosted home games, it was there, and then they would travel to the other ones. I mean, that certainly has been like a potential drawing board type of thing that could, if the league continues to progress as it did, if we have I don't know if you guys watched this year, but I mean, that was about as exciting a bowling as you can have, and a place going crazy. And if we can continue that it could expand in that kind of way. I mean, I really feel like that's what we're always trying to do, is create products and create strategies that have the potential to go in directions that can fulfill all of your dreams.
If it doesn't happen, it's okay. It'd be cool. I want to see somebody yell at somebody. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
yes, like in football. And
yeah. Then the guy quiets the crowd. It's his home field. Quiet the crowd. Other guy gets up. Everybody revs up. Be sick.
Well, Portland's got a little bit of an advantage. I mean, they've won the last couple of Elias Cups, and they've got a little bit of an advantage at Bayside. But the Bayside people are nice enough where they don't try to distract the opponents of that team. And when we first started, it's probably because when we first started doing the league at Bayside Bowl, there was no Portland Lumberjacks, and so they came to cheer up everybody, pick their favorite team, go by players, and now with their own home team, though, that could advance to the point where it's like what you're saying. And if that does happen, then that almost becomes an unfair venue. I mean, it's like, well, why do they have that advantage? I mean, you can't play every home game for one team, so it would be a reason to move around. So it's interesting how sports evolve, and if you look at every sport, how that's happened through the years. But I mean, yeah, I don't think even back in the day they didn't. You go to an NFL game now, and they coach the home team before the game how to act during third down for the opponent. I mean, you hear the PA announcer go, "Third down." In other words, activate fans, be as loud as possible. And like when Aaron Rodgers is out there,
he quiets everybody
down.
down.
Everybody to be quiet. Yeah.
Seattle's the 11th man, right? Or whatever.
11th man, yes. Right. Yeah.
All right.
The Seahawks.
Yeah. So I'm sorry that we took up your entire night.
I've enjoyed it. I got home from Charlotte, I'm winding down. I've enjoyed it. I wanted to talk to you guys, so it's no problem.
Well, I really appreciate that. Anthony's dad literally messaged me and asked us if we were going to go bowling, which we have a league tonight at 9:00. So we still have some time. But no, it is time for us to go. So I really appreciate your time.
What is your ball that your go-to first ball to tell you what the shot's like today?
Oh, I mean, this is
Kyle is.
I'm sorry, but
the league average leader currently.
So
yeah, what are you going to do tonight, Kyle?
It doesn't count. I use a symmetric pearl. It's a melee jab. It's just
Kyle has.
I'm sorry. It's just
that's your mark, and you
normally throw it to the right and hope it carries.
Right. Yeah. Normally, what I do if it's actual bowling, I'm sorry, I shouldn't talk that way, but I do. If it's real bowling, I would use either a phase 2. I would use a phase 2. That's my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Anthony drills 175 bowling balls a week for himself.
No, I don't. Depends on the shot, usually the purple score maker is pretty good.
First out the box.
if
not
it's
always.
less than 40 feet, I'm throwing the purple score maker too.
But no, usually I don't know. Defender is pretty good for me. The defender.
Yeah.
That's usually what I start with, and then I kind of progress from there.
Although I'll tell you what, the best ball I shot back-to-back 300s with it, of course, on house shot, but was my Hitman Enforcer, which is like I got to find a new one. If you find a Hitman Enforcer floating around on a truck somewhere, just let me know. It's a ball that is like only works for me, but if you could find one new in a box, that'd be great.
Found on the discontinued list. So
I've actually been going with the Idol Helios only because it's orange. That's it. It's because I'm from Syracuse and I'm an Orangeman, and so I like an orange ball, So
we've got a couple people that drill that way, color only. That's all that matters.
Yeah, guy comes in and goes, I like that color. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's blue.
Okay. Yeah, one of our friends.
What are you averaging these days?
I'm having a bad start to the year, but I think I'm still about 200. But last year I finished, I think, 206.
And what do you? But the tough shots, you said they're tough out there, right?
Well, it's just not as easy as what I see around the country or what I see at some other places at my house. Just not as easy to carry. And I bowled a couple of, great. Bob Mackey was the head of USBC coaching for many years, and he's a Hall of Famer in Wisconsin locally. This isn't the house to get the highest average possible. I don't think it's always a different challenge there. And I don't know. That's why I feel like you talk about house shot and you go, well, what house and who?
Yeah.
And, it's not as broad based as that, But
that's why I think. I mean, not to drag this on. That's why I think there does need to be some sort of guidelines, because you got scores out the wazoo in some areas, and like you're saying, well, your house might not have that many scores, and certainly there's probably no honor scores or very few coming from places like Bayside that actually are hard. So
but that's all I should be averaging, by the way. If you only bowl once a week, you shouldn't be, that's
I agree.
My son subbed in my league last year with me, and he bowled like 24 games, I think, and he averaged 230. So, I mean, if you're a good player with high revs and high ball speed, you can still average 230 there because he did, and he was 18, so.
Yeah. All right, Tom.
Well, fun.
Thank you so much again for joining us. It was a fun conversation. I hope it was good time for you as well.
Appreciate you coming on. I mean, dealing with me.
Last time somebody hung out with me, Bill O'Neill had to cross with Anthony a couple of weeks ago at the regional, and he left his car door open when he got home. So hopefully just check your car door. Make sure you lock your doors. Yeah, just check everything when you get home, because if you spend time with Anthony, you get screwed up.
He didn't do that this week.
I appreciate what you guys are doing to try to keep people talking about bowling, and it's a lot of effort. It's not as easy as it might look to people, and the commitment to it. So I appreciate what you're doing, and good luck with it. Anytime you need help connecting with anybody, just let me know.
If you just want to send a contact list over, that'd be great. We'll just, just start messaging.
Do the work for you, but if you if you got an idea, let me know. I'll help any way I can.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Have a great night.
All right, thanks. You too. All good.
Thank
you. So, K-Dog.
That was a good time.
What a show today.
Yeah.
It was more him, Kyle is so scripted. Look at all these
I have questions.
things.
I'm not coming in empty-handed. You know what I mean?
I fired off the hip, but that's normal.
I did not read the outline.
I fired right off the hip. I glanced when I printed it out, but it was good. I liked it. A lot of stuff moving forward. Everything was cool.
It sounds like there's some good stuff coming in the PBA this year. Like maybe some few shows for the U.S. Open, a few shows for the Masters. I'm hoping
some sort of something like that.
Something for people to watch.
Be cool.
Speculation.
A lot of speculation from our end, but yeah, it sounds like a lot of good stuff coming on. But it is actually time for us to go bowling. We are running way over time, but we appreciate you guys for sticking with us.
For sure.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell to get alerts. Catch us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you can't watch the show, you can always download and listen from your favorite podcast outlet. And please give us a 5-star review. Check us out on Etsy and purchase something awesome from our merch shop, and you can check out all of those links in the show notes. If you want to email us, downlanepod@gmail.com. And thank you to Tom Clark, first of all, for being our guest tonight. That was awesome. Thank you, Tom. Thank you to Austin VanBuren, the producer. Good show.
Yeah.
Jack Scaccia, proprietor of Town and Country Lanes. Thank you very much. Anthony, another great show tonight.
Thanks. It's good being a guest again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Thank you to my family, Stephanie, Zach, and Ethan.
And Jan Bread.
We'll see you guys next week. This is Down Lane Podcast.
The butcher's going bowling.